For over half a century, we have reassured ourselves with a gentle lie. We look up at the night sky and believe we fully understand this nearest neighbor, a dead world, a quiet rock, a geological entity mapped down to the millimeter, and with nothing left to hide. But that belief is only based on half of the truth, specifically on one half of its face. The 6th of April 2026. 4 astronauts aboard the spacecraft Integrity enter the far side. In the moment they cross that borderline, all communication with Earth is completely severed. 40 minutes of absolute silence. Not a single radio wave can penetrate 2,112 miles of solid rock. No one can hear them. No one can save them. There, in the abyss of deep space, Victor Glover uttered a sentence that made everyone shiver. Humans, perhaps, have not evolved enough to see what they are seeing. The issue is not just that the moon is strange, but that it is strange to the point of exceeding human biological intuition. If what we have seen all this time is just a mask, then the real question is no longer, what did they see? But rather, to what extent have we misunderstood this world? In 1972, as Eugene Cernan placed the final footsteps on the lunar surface, humanity believed this was only the beginning. But then, the door suddenly slammed shut. For 54 years, not a single human footprint, not a single breath of an earthly creature has surpassed low Earth orbit. More than half a century of that silence has created a void filled with skepticism. Why have we waited so long? The answer does not lie in a lack of technology. It lies in the fact the moon is not a playground. It is a harsh, costly fortress, ready to swallow any mistake. Artemis II is not just a flyby around the moon to take photographs. It is a declaration. This is the transition from the visitation era of Apollo to the long-term presence era of Artemis. We are not returning to plant a flag. We are returning to face things that 50 years ago we were not yet capable of understanding. Look at these 4 individuals. They are not just the finest astronauts. They are the eyes of all humanity. For the first time, a woman, a person of color, and a non-USS citizen are together, leaving the protection of Earth's magnetic field. Why is this important? Because in a mission filled with unknowns, we need more than robotic data. We need human observation, emotion, and sharp intuition, things that even the most modern cameras cannot simulate. To send them into that darkness, NASA had to use the SLS, the most powerful machine ever built. But even with that power, they still had to travel on a path known as a free return trajectory. This is a technical term, but its practical meaning is unsettling. It is the safest option, designed so that even if the Integrity spacecraft's engine fails completely after leaving Earth, the moon's gravity will automatically pull them back and sling them home. That means from the very moment they left Earth's orbit, they staked their lives on a journey with no turning back. They are in freefall toward a massive entity of which we have only seen half the truth. And as the ship begins to bank toward the far side, that is when the true silence begins. Take a close look at this image. This is the moment known as Earthset. For thousands of years, we have only seen the moon rise and set in our home sky. But for the 4 astronauts aboard the Orion spacecraft, that order has been reversed. As that blue glow disappears completely behind the grey stone horizon, they officially enter the most isolated place humanity has ever experienced. Right now, the Orion spacecraft moves toward the far side. All radio communication with Houston is severed. 2,112 miles of solid lunar rock now act as a massive shield, blocking every radio wave, every message, and every hope of receiving help from Earth. 40 minutes of absolute silence. This is not just a technical failure, it is an existential state. During that time, these 4 human beings are the only living entities within a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles. Beneath them are no longer the gentle basalt plains that we see every night. Instead, a completely different world appears. This is precisely the visual shock that Victor Glover mentioned. Why is the far side so astonishingly different? While the near side has vast plains filled with ancient lava, creating the familiar face, the far side has almost none of them. Instead, it is a literal geological battlefield. Crater upon crater, deep and jagged impact scars, as if some force had used a hammer to smash this surface for 4 billion years without ever stopping. The crust here is up to 31 miles thicker than on the near side, ensuring that lava from the core never had the chance to surge up and cover its wounds. We suddenly realize an ironic truth. Our entire history, culture, and understanding of the moon all this time have been built upon the most visible half. We had defaulted to the assumption that the other half was merely a similar grey duplicate. But this silence is telling a different story. Humanity's greatest mistake does not lie in the fact that we haven't seen enough. The mistake lies in the fact that we saw a part and then arrogantly believed it was the entire truth. And in the midst of that deadly silence, something massive is hiding. Something that does not fit any scientific model we have ever constructed. A secret lying hundreds of miles deep beneath that shattered rock, waiting to overturn every understanding we have of our own origins. For decades after the Apollo era, we have lived in a state of misplaced confidence. 6 landings, hundreds of pounds of rock and soil samples, thousands of crystal clear photographs. We believed we held the key to deciphering the entire history of this grey world. But there is a truth that the scientific community rarely admits publicly. The entire Book of the Moon that we teach in universities was actually written based on a localized dataset. Our claim of understanding the moon based on the Apollo flights is much the same. It is like landing in the Sahara and concluding that this blue planet has no oceans, no jungles, and no life. We took a sample size far too small to represent such a grand entity. Why is the far side so important? Because it is the original archive of the solar system. The near side, where we usually gaze, was flooded by ancient lava flows that wiped out most of the impact records from the early ages. It is a manuscript that has been overwritten many times, but the far side is different because the crust here is up to 31 miles thicker than on the near side. Lava could never penetrate to erase the surface. Every collision, every cataclysmic event from 4 billion years ago remains intact, etched on this opposite side. If the near side shows us the moon of the present, then the far side is the place that preserves the memories of a violent past that we have never truly read in full. And this is when the old scientific model begins to collapse. Why is it that the same celestial body, from the same formation process, has 2 halves that are so absurdly asymmetrical? Why does one side have a thin crust for lava to erupt, while the other is a dense, impenetrable stone fortress? Scientists once tried to explain this using simple hypotheses about temperature, but as the Artemis II spacecraft flies over the South Pole-Aitken Basin, the largest and oldest planetary wound in the solar system, they realize the answer is not that simple. There is something lying deep beneath that dense rock. A gravity anomaly that is pulling down every old theory. A bullet fragment from the past, still lodged in the moon's body. and it is so massive it could completely change the way we understand our own origins. We are not just seeing a new land, we are witnessing the collapse of a belief that has lasted half a century, and the real secret has only just begun to reveal itself. As the Orion spacecraft flies over the South Pole-Aitken Basin, the crew is not just seeing an impact crater, they are looking at the largest and oldest wound in the entire solar system, a basin spanning up to 1,553 miles. If placed on a map of the United States, it would swallow the entire landmass from Texas to Virginia. But the terror does not lie in its size, it lies in what is lurking beneath. In 2019, data from NASA's Grail mission discovered a massive gravity anomaly here. A dense mass weighing up to 2.18 quintillion kilograms is lying 186 miles beneath the surface. It is so heavy that it pulls the lunar surface down by more than half a mile. Scientists call it the blob. The most plausible hypothesis? It is the metal core of a small planet that slammed into the moon 4 billion years ago. It did not dissipate, nor was it absorbed. It is still there, wedged in the mantle, like a metal bullet fragment that was never removed. Why do we need humans there? Because cameras only give us numbers, but the human eye shows us the truth of scale. Glover described the Terminator line not as a boundary of light, but as a region full of magic. The deep black holes along that border look as if you could fall straight to the center of the moon without ever hitting the bottom. Christina Koch noticed young craters with startling brightness against the ancient rock. She likened them to pinholes in a lampshade, shining with an unusual brilliance. Subtle shades of blue, green, and brown that satellite images often flatten now appear vividly under human vision. And then they fly over Rhina Gamma, a visual anomaly unlike anything else. Swirling white streaks appear against the dark rock like a brushstroke painted by someone. It has no elevation, it's not a mountain, nor is it a crater. The strange thing is that Rhina Gamma sits directly atop a localized magnetic pocket. While the entire moon lost its magnetic field billions of years ago, here, magnetic ghosts still persist. They shield the surface from solar wind, creating eerie patterns that, to this day, we still cannot understand why a dead world could retain such powerful magnetic memories. The more they observe, the more the Artemis II crew realizes the moon is not a monotonous block of stone. It is an entity full of contradictions, an unusually thick crust, buried alien metal masses, and magnetic ghosts that refuse to fade away. But the most concerning part still lies ahead, because as they look deeper into the ground, they begin to see signs that the heart of this world may still be beating. In the world of physics, temperature is a signal, and on the far side of the moon, that signal is broadcasting a warning. In 2023, researchers discovered a thermal anomaly beneath the surface, an area up to 18 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than its surroundings. 18 degrees Fahrenheit might sound small, but in the midst of a deadly and absolute cold space, it is like a torch burning in the dead of night. Its origin? A massive buried block of granite. This is where everything becomes absurd. Granite is an extremely common rock on Earth, but it requires water and plate tectonics to form. The moon, according to our understanding, has neither of those. So how can a mass of magma still radiating heat after 3.5 billion years exist here? This poses a chilling question. Are we looking at a world simpler than reality? Or are we looking at an entity with a complex structure and one that is more Earth-like? than any scientific model has ever dared to admit. But granite is not the only mystery beneath the surface. As the Artemis II crew points their lenses down into deep skylights, they are looking at the entrances to lava tubes, ancient lava tunnels that can be miles wide and dozens of miles long. These structures are so stable that they could shelter an entire artificial city in the future. However, right now, they are sealed spaces. We have never set foot inside them. We do not know what lies inside those tunnels. Residual gas pressure, unnamed minerals, or a completely different geological history being preserved in eternal darkness. And there is one final truth that causes the definition of a dead world to collapse completely: moonquakes. Since the Apollo era, seismometers have recorded both deep tremors and shallow earthquakes right near the surface. The moon is not standing still. It is shrinking, like a raisin shriveling up. Its crust wrinkles and fractures, creating cliffs that are miles long. These tremors are living evidence that inside this block of stone, physical processes are still occurring silently yet intensely. This world is less dead than we imagined. It is not a static block of stone. It is an entity that is breathing, moving, and retaining heat from a past that we never belonged to. But as humans begin to delve deeper into these mysteries, we also begin to realize a grim truth. To see those secrets, we must pay a price that is not cheap. That price is measured not only in money, but in the very biological limits of humans. In the midst of their journey to decode geological mysteries, the Artemis II crew witnessed one of the most terrifying and magnificent spectacles ever captured by the human eye: a total solar eclipse from lunar orbit. As the sun dipped behind the jagged grey rim, space itself was swallowed by a darkness so dense and absolute that no camera could ever truly convey it. The solar corona, the sun's blazing atmosphere, flared out like a silver-white crown encircling a deep, void-like black hole. Jeremy Hansen described how, under the eclipse's light, the mountain ridges appeared sharp as knife cuts, but it was in that very moment of stillness that a sense of unease began to surface. Wiseman and Hansen reported seeing flashes of light flickering across the moon's dark surface. Brief, cold flashes. These are likely micrometeoroid impacts slamming into the lunar crust at tens of thousands of miles per hour. It is a sobering reminder. On the far side, there is no atmosphere to incinerate incoming debris, and no magnetic field to deflect lethal radiation. Everything from the cosmos strikes this surface with its raw, unmitigated power. At that moment, a grim truth is revealed. These four human beings are in a cosmic firing range without any natural protection. They are observing a world that was never designed for life. This is when the sense of grandeur shifts into existential unease. Victor Glover was right. Humans did not evolve to see these things. Our nervous systems were built to process gentle sunlight, blue skies, and stable gravity. Here, every biological rule is shattered. Even when they close their eyes to rest, the universe does not leave them in peace. High-energy particles from galactic cosmic rays pierce through the ship's hull, through the skull, and collide directly with the retina, creating ghostly streaks of light right inside their minds. We call this exploration. But for the human body, this is an invasion. Every moment they remain on the far side to stare directly at the truth is a moment they pay for with their own biological safety. And as they realize that the only shield protecting them, the spacecraft integrity, also has its limits, the question is no longer what we can discover, but how long humans can truly endure before this universe breaks us completely. Remember that on Earth, We have a dense atmosphere and a powerful magnetic field to deflect lethal rays from the cosmos. But here, that shield is zero. The moon has no atmosphere and no global magnetic field. Everything most devastating from solar wind to galactic cosmic rays is hurled directly at the tiny Integrity spacecraft. We have known about this price for over half a century. Apollo astronauts reported ghostly streaks of light flashing through their eyelids even when they were closed for sleep. These are high-energy particles traveling at near the speed of light, piercing the retina. The consequence? Some developed cataracts at an abnormally high rate, but Artemis II is facing a far more dangerous scenario. This mission takes place in 2026, right during the solar maximum, the peak of the Sun's 1-year activity cycle. A solar particle event can surge radiation doses to lethal levels within mere hours. Even though the Orion spacecraft possesses superior shielding compared to Apollo, galactic cosmic rays, those invisible snipers born from distant supernova explosions, can still pierce through every material we have ever engineered. Here, we confront the true limit of space exploration. The obstacle isn't how powerful of a rocket we can construct. It's that the human body simply wasn't designed to survive outside Earth's protective shield. Biology is the ultimate bottleneck. And this is when the 40-minute blackout becomes a game of life and death. If a massive radiation event occurs exactly while they are behind the moon, Houston will have no idea, no warning, no real-time emergency protocols. Those 4 individuals are completely alone with energy particles silently ravaging their cells. This is why Artemis II carries the Avatar payload cultured bone marrow cell samples to study the direct reaction to deep space radiation. Data from these cells is more precious than any 4K photograph. It will answer the most existential question: how long can humans truly live out there before our genetic code is completely broken? We are looking at the far side of the moon, but at the same time, we are looking at the limits of our own species. We have reached this place, but the grim truth is, we still do not truly belong to it. As the light returns and the radio signal is re-established, another magnificent moment unfolds, a moment that will forever redefine their definition of home. When the 40 minutes of silence ended, a sound suddenly echoed in the cabin. It was the voice from Houston. An invisible but solid link had been reconnected, but as soon as the signal returned, the Artemis II crew faced a sight that left them completely silent. In 1968, Apollo 8 gave humanity the Earthrise photograph, a symbol of hope and exploration. But in 2026, Artemis II brings a contrasting perspective. Earthset. Look at that photo. This is not just an optical phenomenon. It is a moment that reminds humans that home is not something to be taken for granted. It can vanish from sight very quickly, leaving you alone in the middle of an eternal, pitch-black ocean. Christina Koch described this moment with profound empathy. She realized that when standing on the other side, Earth is no longer just a default backdrop for daily life. It becomes the only place that provides everything we need: oxygen to breathe, water to drink, and the ones we love to protect. In the brutal contrast between the shattered, dead lunar surface and the fragile brilliance of Earth, an existential truth was revealed. All technological shields, every SLS rocket or Orion spacecraft are, in the end, just our efforts to carry a tiny piece of home into a place that is inherently not meant for life. After all the mysteries about the giant metal mass underground, the thermal anomalies, or the magnetic ghosts, the biggest payoff of the Artemis II mission is not understanding more about the moon. It is seeing Earth in a completely different way. we travel this far, overcoming lethal radiation and absolute loneliness, perhaps only to realize one simple thing: Earth is everything we have, and we cannot truly understand the value of the home we inhabit until we witness it setting behind a foreign world. But as the emotions settle and the spacecraft integrity begins its return journey, another truth gradually emerges. We did not go to the far side just to test biological limits or to capture a photo of Earthset. We go there because the far side of the moon is humanity's new frontier, a place that not only holds geological mysteries, but also holds the key to our future in the universe. Think of the far side as the black box of the solar system. While Earth has used water, wind, and plate tectonics to erase every trace of its violent past, the far side of the moon preserves them in the most honest way. At this place, we can read the ancient impact records, the very things that shaped life on Earth. Understanding the far side is understanding the lost diary of our own origins. But this is no longer NASA's exclusive playground. China has already taken a step ahead by landing on the far side and returning samples to Earth. The world is witnessing a new space race, where the far side has become a strategic high ground. Why? Because whichever nation is the first to understand those thermal anomalies and the giant metal masses beneath the surface will hold an absolute advantage in resource extraction and establishing a long-term presence beyond Earth. The far side is no longer just a mysterious wasteland. It has become a true scientific and technological battleground. But the greatest value of the far side may not lie in what is on its surface, but in what is not there. That is silence. The far side is the only place in the solar system near Earth that is completely shielded from the electromagnetic pollution of human civilization. No Wi-Fi, no cell signals, no radio interference. For astronomers, this is the most perfect location to place radio telescopes. Here, we can hear ultra-low frequencies from the dark ages of the universe, signals emitted shortly after the Big Bang that Earth's atmosphere always blocks. The far side doesn't just help us understand the moon. It is a giant megaphone that allows us to hear the echoes from the dawn of time. Artemis II has flung open the doors to this frontier. What they saw was not just rock and dust. It is a tool for understanding the universe, a laboratory for survival, and a waypoint for journeys onward to Mars and beyond. We once feared the dark side because of its infinity, but now we realize that the far side is the most honest place, a place that preserves the most ancient secrets and opens up the grandest future for our species. This journey has only just begun, and what lies on the opposite side of the familiar turns out to be where we find ourselves. We once thought the moon was a simple entity, a silent celestial body that was thoroughly understood, a decorative poster for humanity's night sky. But what Artemis II saw has completely changed that definition. A world so asymmetrical, it borders on the absurd. Ancient impact scars preserved like a record that has never been erased. Gravity anomalies that collapse all previous models. And thermal signs suggesting that its heart may not have completely stopped beating yet. Victor Glover was right when he said, "The moon is not just a name or a symbol, it is a real place." And there is a terrifying truth. The more clearly we see its far side, the less confident we can be in saying that we truly understand this neighbor. After more than half a century, we are only beginning to look directly at the face we once ignored. And what we find are not satisfying answers, but harder, deeper questions about our own origins and the universe. The greatest story of the moon may not lie in the places where humans have set foot in the past. It might lie on the opposite side, the quietest, most alien, and most honest place regarding our history. We venture into the dark not to conquer it, but to learn how to face our own smallness. Thank you for joining me on this journey to decode these secrets. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming space dossiers. I am Dark Orbit. See you on the other side of the truth.